the kind of goodness that prevails in Assam society, that is something very unique to Assam, I would say. And that's part of Ohomia culture, culture of hospitality, culture of rudeness, culture of cruelty is superseded by a culture of hospitality, a culture of kindness. That is created because of the multicultural, multi-tribal, multi-ethnic kind of formation that every helmet, every rural area, every semi-urban area, and every urban area of Assam has. And as long as that exists, it's not possible to sharply divide the society. And that's where the politics of polarization fails, even though Hemanta Biswa Sharma pursues it in a very calculated manner. Child marriage is one thing that is something very sensitive at various layers of the society. And he's hitting that layer, knowing fully well that this will sort of uproot certain people, this will unsettle certain families, and then how these families are going to cope up.
He's also applying the law retrospectively, which is very weird.
Yes, he's applying the law retrospectively to some extent, but then the legal process always doesn't support him, fortunately. And there is a leeway that always remains in the legal process.
So how do you categorize Hemanta Biswa Sharma? Because he's a very interesting character to me, especially. You know, people might see him as this dangerous poster boy kind of thing, but to me, I don't see him as a dangerous Hindutvawadi person at all.
Hemanta Biswa Sharma is able to keep himself in the limelight in a very positive way. And whatever be his background has gone during his Congress days. He lifted up that part of Congress politics which now will work for him. He has his own TV channel, and you can see most of them are from Assamese Muslim community. So therefore, he has a certain way of balancing these contradictions of everyday politics, and which keeps him alive as a very maverick and a successful politician.
Allegedly, Hemanta Biswa Sharma has gunned down a person also, it is told. And he has kind of make sure that the police station is stormed and the FIR copy is somehow deleted.
The problem is that Assam is caught between multiple forces. There are lots of tribals who do not agree with each other. There are non-tribals, and Assamese people cannot claim themselves to be tribal. You can look at a parallel crisis in Manipur. The kind of differentiation that has happened between valley and the hill. Similar differentiation can get imported to Assam, and that will create a big problem for the Assamese middle class elites who are in power consistently for last 75 years in Assam. Thai Oham community has a very strong system of traditional heads, whom we call Buras. Now, this is part of the very existence of the community. The traditional structure of Bura challenges the traditional political elites also. MLA also feels a little insecure if there is a Bura as a parallel authority. So he wants to finish that parallel sense of protective network that Buras create for their own communities. So there is a de-victimization of Bengali Hindus, and there is a re-victimization of Bengali Muslims. Now, Hemanta Biswa Sharma, between the two processes, have created a certain gulf so that people cannot even express themselves openly. Now, Congress party is not able to make use of such a situation. That's the weakness of the opposition, that people who are under attack, they are speaking the same thing, seeking same kind of a liberty or protection, but they are not able to come together politically. And Mr. Hemanta Biswa Sharma is making full use of this division, though he has not engineered such a division.
So guys, welcome to DYNT Land. We are today doing an interview of Dr. Prasenjit Biswas, who is a Department of Philosophy professor at NEHU. He is also the HOD there. He is a political analyst, and we have seen him come on our show. So welcome to DYNT News. Democratize your nation today. Our tagline: awaken one human at a time. You can also go to our app and participate in debates and generate data, real-time data, which is accessible to you. You won't find this data elsewhere because Facebook and Twitter kind of makes this data inaccessible to most of the users until you pay for that data. So let's start the discussion. So welcome Dr. Prasenjit Biswas.
Thank you so much, Abid, for revisiting me with such important issues in mind. Yes.
Yeah, revisiting Dr. Prasenjit Biswas is well, it is a calling, considering how some people at DYNT Bangla and DYNT News consuming our two podcasts have become so reactionary. So it was inevitable that I had to do another podcast with you. So
Probably impactful and not reactionary. Yes, yes.
so you were discussing something about minority of minorities, and you said that you are going to make us understand this through Assam, history of Assam politics. So what do you mean by that?
First of all, Assam and larger Southeast Asia, which will also include the Gangetic Plains and the Dravidian connections that we have, and the Chola kingdom, it goes up to the Southeast Asia. So therefore, we complete a full circle the moment we talk about Assam. And Assam is a land of many communities, and each of the community, in relation to the other, in some way is a minority, and no one can claim to be an absolute majority in the context of Assam. The major cultural and linguistic community of Assam, the Homia community, which is a syncretic community and which comprises of the tribal communities as well as those Indo-Aryans from Kannauj, Magad, who are now assimilated into a process of Aryanization and the late kind of following of Shankar Deva and Madhav Deva, and also Ajan Fakir, is a great blend of syncretic culture. But at the same time, the communities have retained their distinctive identity because modernity creates a sense of otherness in every community. Every community sees itself as an other in relation to a bigger or a smaller. And that brings back a kind of an essentialist description, a self description, a self identity of theirs, which is connected to their own historical and traditional roots, but in a selective manner. So, the basic identity of the Ohomia speaking Assamese people is a kind of an integrated identity between the Brahmaputra Valley Brahmins and the Koch Rajbangshis, to which Shankar Deva, Mahapurukhya Sanskriti of Assam originates from Shankar Deva and his community Koch Rajbangshis, who were in Assam from Bhaskar Burma's time, even before, and whose epitome is the Kamakhya temple of Assam. So you can see on the one side Koch Rajbangshis, on the other side Thai Ahom and the Ahom kingdom that has come around 13th century in Assam from the western Shan province. And recently we have seen Shan people visiting Assam in search of their own roots. So seemingly there is a dispersal of roots, and there is also some kind of a grounding of roots in certain forms of common practices, such as wet rice cultivation, such as evolving a syncretic language combining Ahom, Sanskrit, and the spoken Assamese of the 17th and the 18th century, emerging into a modern Assamese literature that has its components in Kamrupia, Gwalparia, and also in Rajbangshi language, drawing itself closer to Brajabuli and also the roots of Magadhi and such other roots, and which is also influenced by Dravidian culture substantially. So therefore, a simultaneous process of Mongoloid influence, the influence of the Koibartas, the influence of the Dravidian people, the influence of partly the Aryan, Indo-Aryan group of languages, all these come together in this greater syncretic emergence of a Homia language as a modern and also a classical Indian language as well. So therefore, you can see Assam is a land of lots of cross currents coming together.
But since you're talking about Assam being minorities of minorities, Assamese culture representing that thing, but if you look at standard Assamese culture, a standard Assamese nationalism, then it is very xenophobic. It does not have any capacity to absorb pre-Thai Ahom language or respect of that culture. Also, post British administration, where we see Bengalis flocking to Assam, Sylhet being added to Assam to increase its revenue. You know, the language politics that starts in a kind of reactionary manner, and then we see you know, a certain section of Bengali farmers who are the reason because this wet cultivation is a huge success. You know, they are absorbed as the new Assamese or the Naya Assamia, and then after 1963, suddenly Assam is again burning. There is you know, large scale riots against Bengali Hindus in general, and they have to flee Assam. Then it gets converted into you know, genocide against the Bengalis, Boros, Mias. Then we see, you know, a new kind of xenophobic politics. But the standard is that, you know, so everyone who has to be in Assam has to speak the Assamese, but there is hypocrisy there, because the Assamese language becoming bigger than the language spoken in Barak Valley, the resultant was because of the Mias started speaking Assamese and accepting the Assamese identity as the public identity. Somewhere down the line, you know, everything is now you know, going downwards, and even, you know, even the Bodo whose language is older than the new Assamese, or even the Tai Ahom language, or, you know, the Koiborto, who can be said to be, you know, the origin of Bengali community also in many ways. You know, their culture being recognized as Bhumiputra culture, but then Bengali culture and Bengali language is being seen as not a part of the Assamese identity. You know, they don't do anything in Barak Valley. They have some respect of Barak Valley because they know it was added to Assam later. But you know, the dehumanization of the non-Assamese, including within Assam, those who are never Bengalis, like the Boros, the Rajbangshis, how do we visualize that?
In fact, Assamese and Bengali are still two major languages in Assam. And you have rightly pointed out that in history there is a lot of strife, lot of ups and downs. But what has gone in 60s is reverted in 70s, very interestingly. 60s Bengal Kheda Andolon and 60s aggression against Bengalis didn't continue in 70s. In 70s, it takes a larger turn about, in a sense, unabated open border with Bangladesh and possibility, I would say, of large scale immigration of people from Bangladesh for various reasons. Actually created a sense of anxiety among the Assamese people, especially Assamese speaking middle classes, and also among some part of tribes and communities of Assam. And you have seen 6 years of Assam movement that has resulted into a broad agreement and reconciliation in terms of Assam Accord, which recognized for the first time Assamese as a major language, Assamese culture as the mainstream culture of Assam, and also it provided breathing spaces, leeways to other non-Assamese cultures as well, in terms of deciding a cut-off date of 1971, 25th March, as the cut-off date of deciding who should stay in Assam and who should not stay in Assam. So Assam being a small space where there is a lot of pressure on the land, and Assamese people are slowly losing the land that they were having. There is a kind of a land alienation among the tribes and also among the Assamese people, be they farmers, be they middle classes. And even middle classes are rooted in their land because they have their village houses, they have their village property and village resources, which later turns into a kind of an urban capital or an urban way of living or livelihood. It's a kind of an urban-rural connection that goes amiss in case of land alienation. So that is one of the causes which finds its expression in terms of othering the Bengalis or othering the Bodos, othering other tribal communities in Assam. But then this othering is just a superficial and artificial othering. It does not have deep roots in politics. Though politics is often influenced by the behavioral practices, as you know. In American politics, we talk about behavior and rationality. Behavior and rationality actually sometimes go together, sometimes they act against each other. Behaviorally, socially, culturally, there's a way of keeping oneself distinct. We call it a politics of distinction. We draw a line with others and we say that here is this cutoff, and we draw a cut. We don't allow them to take over our land, our employment, our productive processes, and even our markets. But when we say all this, underneath, there's a huge agrarian market participated by all communities, and all communities have contributed to agriculture, fishing, animal rearing, preservation of forest, grasslands, and such basic economic activities which are dependent on people's livelihoods, and people's livelihood is also dependent on these practices. These practices are rampantly available across Assam and Northeast given its ecological and cultural setting. So therefore, any kind of ethnocentric politics finds its natural opposition, I would say, in the economic practices of the common people. And therefore, finally, common people do not really create a kind of a bad blood between them. They come together in the local markets, they buy and sell the same products, they share their food during Bihu, during Eid, and during other festivals, each of which become a hallmark of a beautiful kind of syncretism in Assam. So therefore, that is the main strength of Assam's culture, which cannot be broken by anyone by a political discourse of polarization.
But you know, if we look at the history of this Assamese politics, taking the culture away, because you know, Assamese culture can be very beautiful, and because Assamese culture hasn't become that much xenophobic, you can say that you know, Mias and the Bengali Hindus are kind of to some extent safe in Assam. Let's put it in this.
Absolutely.
But you know, land and Assamese nationalism is kind of correlated. You talked about democratization of land, even within the Assamese, but this line system that exists, you know, many
that existed during colonial time.
But in some way, you know, it's a tactics of Assamese nationalism to make sure that the line system which existed, at least you know, a soft line system exists. So they're doing new forms of Assamese nationalism. Sometimes they're you know, attacking the Nepali. Sometimes they're saying Ali Kuli Nakchapta Nepali. Sometimes they're going after Hindu Bengalis. Then there is the May 1961 language movement, where they you know, the Assamese government killed Bengalis. So like, you know, how to make people understand that the culture might be superior and the culture is not allowing, you know, fragmentation of Assam, but the Assam state, that is the, you know, very xenophobic, and that is it's a kind of settler colonialism also in many ways historically. You know, people might say that, you know, settler colonialism can be applied only for the Palestine and Israel issue, but I think settler colonialism can be applied in history. So we can see, you know, there was no problem between tribes. Whatever problems we see in Assam, it mainly originates from the, you know, Ahom people, and it originates even when Hindutva was not powerful in Assam. So how do you safeguard the political aspirations of the Assamese minority within the Assamese fold, who are largely tribals, and you know, the Assamese Dalits, we may say, or the, you know, what do you say, the T tribes and the Bengalis, who would like to, you know, assimilate into Assamese culture, but politically are not being given the chance.
It's not exactly so cutthroat in Assam. There are softer aspects of it. For example, T tribes and their language is much celebrated by Assamese cultural icons such as Bhupen Hazarika or Vishnu Rabha or even the current ones, Jubin Gorg and others.
Mm.
So therefore, you can always see an invitation to join Assamese mainstream.
Mm.
And it's a fascinating invitation. No one can deny or reject that invitation.
Mm.
So there is this kind of broad-heartedness.
Mm.
There is a heartwarming situation. Even though there is a political discourse that Mughals are coming, we have to fight against Lachits for the last time, Jati, Mati, Veti. Now, these things are part of political polarization. Now, what we have to understand is that political polarization is a political gambit. Now, cultural process and historical process work very differently than the political gambit. I am emphasizing on the cultural and historical process that have kept Assam together. Look at the situation between Okhomia and Bodo. Bodos have got their own territorial council. Bodos and Akhom.
But Karbi Anglong still haven't got.
Karbi Anglong is still having a problem in terms of settling for a kind of a larger autonomy. But a form of autonomy is there in Karbi Anglong. Also, a form of autonomy has been established in Dima Hasao. And Dimasa people and Kirby people are given broad enough spaces to work through their own land and territory. Their culture is very well protected and funded by the Assam government and also by the central government. Though, again, there is a kind of a hardline feeling that to what extent Karbis or Dimasas can be part of Assamese mainstream. And there, some of the ethnocentric arguments and people who give such ethnocentric arguments would say that they have traditionally not been part of Ahom kingdom, so therefore they cannot be part of Assam. Now, these arguments get subverted because these are self-stultifying arguments in terms of bringing together, even Ahom Haithohoba brings together Karbis, Boros, Dimasas, Ravas, Koch Rajbangshis, Tai Ahom and other such communities all come together in Ahom Haithohoba and they all recite, sing, dance together, participate in the same bihu and all that. Now, you see, the cultural process subverts the political process of polarization and political elites are not able to digest it. That is their biggest problem.
Okay.
And therefore, they keep on harping on a line of difference, but public doesn't get divided. It's a very strange situation and a very interesting situation that doesn't obtain anywhere else in India, I would say.
So it's a lot like, political elites trying to bring a narrow-minded understanding of Assamese culture to thwart vernacular Assamese culture that is absorbing. Going forward, we have to talk about someone called Badruddin Ajmal.
Yes.
The Badruddin Ajmal, despite being from Islamic space, Jamiat Ulema Hind, he creates a party, AIUDF, which kind of showcases friendship between Bengalis and Boros, Muslims and Hindus. And he gets almost 80,000 votes from Hindus also.
Obviously.
But, going forward, he has not been able to satisfy his own expectations or his own imagination which he created as the voice of Bengalis in Assam. Then he transforms to a Bengali Muslim voice. Then also he fails. Now he is trying a meta-Muslim narrative in Assam. That also kind of is reactionary to what is happening. So how, going forward, what do you see Badruddin Ajmal becoming? And since you are, key player in Assam politics, what do you think about his past and present and future?
Badruddin Ajmal still retains a huge popularity. Popularity because of his social work that he has been conducting. His study centers for IAS, for medical entrance, for engineering entrance has produced, irrespective of communities, a huge success. And therefore, as long as he carries on such social service work, he retains popularity. And then he has 15-16 MLAs for his party. Now, it depends on his party how it retains its mass base. And to retain its mass base, it has to find suitable alliances. So, he's like a bride who is looking for a groom all the time. But then no one is coming forward openly to marry him. That is his current situation. And he has not been divorced also from his previous marriages.
Okay.
His relationship, everyone knows, with BJP is that of a certain kind of a mutually reciprocating relationship that keeps a certain kind of a balance between Assam's Hindu and Assam's Muslim populace. But at the same time, it can buttress a kind of a vote bank for the Muslim minorities in the name of being Muslim. Now, what is it to be Muslim in Assam? It is that kind of a sad narrative of Nelly, narrative of decitizenization, narrative of NRC, but suppressing all that, there is also a narrative of being part of a larger Assamese identity, even though a segment of Bengali Muslims, no Homias, are called Mias in Assam, in a sense of differentiation. Yes, yes, and also they are sort of differentiated, and in this differentiation creates a kind of a hardline Hindu-Muslim tension as well. But the moment there is a Hindu-Muslim tension, there are people who would neutralize this tension. That is the best part of it. From the same political formation, it cannot be like a cutthroat, polarized, completely divided, fragmented Assam society. This has never happened in Assam. I don't know. Politics is something very dynamic. To what extent such a blueprint can work in Assam? But if such a blueprint can work in Assam, the problem is that Assam is caught between multiple forces. There are a lot of tribals who do not agree with each other. There are non-tribals, and Assamese people cannot claim themselves to be tribal. You can look at a parallel crisis in Manipur. The kind of differentiation that has happened between valley and the hill. Similar differentiation can get imported to Assam, and that will create a big problem for the Assamese middle class elites who are in power consistently for last 75 years in Assam. And between them, whatever is the difference, finally, in political terms, they all share a common vote base as well. And Badruddin Ajmal wants to make use of that sense of commonality. And wherever Assamese Muslims and Bengali Muslims are there, he gets support. Even he gets support from the Tea tribes because of his social work, because of his philanthropy, because of multiple other corporate lineages that he carries with himself, the potential to carry job and employment, also to bring people together. All this helps him always to maintain a kind of as a figure in the opposition space, which is not a lesser of a figure, although he doesn't come to capture power. But if he captures power, it will revert into a certain kind of a destabilization of Assam's policy, because no one wants to see that the power should move away from a core Assamese identity.
Core Assamese identity to Barak Valley.
To Barak Valley or to Lower Assam. So the Barak Valley and Lower Assam finally gets adjusted to that core Assamese political sentiments. That is something that actually keeps Assam together.
So, going forward, this is a very interesting discussion, because such deep dive into Assamese politics, I don't think anyone does. And Badruddin as well has been marketed as this Muslim heel, and also Hemanta Biswa Sharma has been marketed as the poster child of Hindutva, while his own background is not that so. So, do you think Hemanta Biswa Sharma is someone like our Bihar's Chief Minister Nitish Kumar? He is always doing politics from the weakest position, because we know what are the weaknesses of Hemanta Biswa Sharma. There's corruption scandal. He has taken money from the Americans, and there are all sorts of things we know. There is one particular case which we can discuss, but I think we should not discuss. That is, allegedly Hemanta Biswa Sharma has gunned down a person also. It is told, and he has kind of make sure that the police station is stormed and the FIR copy is somehow deleted. So we are not going into that. I want a comment as to, do you think Hemanta Biswa Sharma is in a way playing Kissinger to safeguard Assamese ethnocentrism? Because whatever he does ultimately creates a reactionary force inside the Assamese also. They are very keen to differentiate between Hemanta Biswa Sharma's brand of Assamese nationalism and their brand of this cultural in an absorbent nationalism. At the same time, we are seeing Hemanta Biswa Sharma try so many formats of Hindutva. Sometimes he's saying, don't buy fruits and vegetables, fish from the Mias. We'll not allow USTM to send their graduates into the Assamese state. Will not give them jobs. Then he created deliberate controversy regarding the floods in Meghalaya, mainly Shillong, where USTM is there. When 2 years ago he was hobnobbing with Mahbubul Haq. So it's a kind of Congress style Hindutva politics. It's not BJP style Hindutva politics. BJP, at least, what we have seen, BJP, there's a line. Okay, they don't cross the line. They don't mingle with everybody. They become pragmatic electorally, like we have seen in Kashmir. But generally, they are very standard Hindutva politics. It is not like if Modi is hobnobbing with someone 5 years back, he is going to abuse that person going forward. That there is a certain standard in Hindutva politics. But in liberal politics, we see, someone might be a friend now, but will become an enemy later. So how do you categorize Hemanta Biswa Sharma? Because he's a very interesting character to me, especially. People might see him as this dangerous poster boy thing, but to me, I don't see him as a dangerous Hindutvawadi person at all.
I mean, you have really brought out the pragmatics of politics, putting Hemanta Biswa Sharma's style as a kind of a new age 21st century young political style. Indeed, he fits into that very well. And he's better than Trump, or he's better than, any other rebel rouser. He is actually maverick, and also he uses his wisdom. He uses his influence among the Assamese middle classes to bring people together and also to keep them segregated. He went to Dima Hasao, embraced a kind of a young Muslim chap by apparently pretending to slap on his cheek just before the election. And many people criticized, is it what a mama does to a bhanja? Now his popular image as a mama, and many chor people, many young Muslim chap are fascinated by him. Many young girls, especially Muslim girls, are fascinated by his call to become progressive and not to use hood, and to come forward and take part in education, and also to abolish child marriage. So you can see a very different style of politicking. It's a kind of a political strategization, what will work when. And then he will also use hardline eviction politics to keep this Hindutva mentality alive by using bulldozers. And before his bulldozers, so many families got evicted and so many families have suffered. They have been declared foreigners all of a sudden without leaving them any defense. So therefore, there are these two sides of his politics, and he really brings it out in a very calculated manner. The political calculations are important here. Whenever there is this kind of an enforced statelessness, decitizenization and all that, that is again addressed by the Assam civil society in a very, very reconciliatory manner, in a manner that people are safeguarded and their rights are protected. And there, you will see that he is not actually dissenting to that kind of politics that other people are playing. So therefore, Hemanta Biswa Sharma is able to keep himself in the limelight in a very positive way. And whatever be his background has gone during his Congress days. He lifted up that part of Congress politics which now will work for him. He has his own TV channel, and you can see most of them are from Assamese Muslim community. So therefore, he has a certain way of balancing these contradictions of everyday politics, and which keeps him alive as a very maverick and a successful politician.
So can we say that Hemanta Biswa Sharma is basically trying to, jump on the Hindutva bandwagon and materialize something from Assam, for Assam, through this meta-Hindu narrative?
Obviously, he is protecting Assam's financial interests very well. You can see the recent spate of development in Assam, the flyovers in Guwahati city, which has enthralled the large Assamese middle classes. This part of job and employment that it is able to give, at least in Brahmaputra Valley, and which protects the interests of Assamese middle classes in the sectors of higher education, in IT sector, in service sector, and inviting a lot of investment in Assam by opening up manufacturing sectors everywhere, even in Gwalpara, and opening up the process of making chips everywhere, by mobilizing the latest technologies and using Government of India policies, especially investment related incentive policy, which he is advocating in a major way to attract investment from various parts of India as well as from abroad, is a kind of dynamism which is unmatched. And therefore, he still remains as a major space of attraction for the Assamese younger generation. And therefore, he keeps going in a very successful way, in a very popular way, in a very populist way as well.
Another, two things that I need to highlight is he is going after masjids and madrasas are mostly Bengali. At the same time, when he was, doing his tirade against child marriage, there were Bengali Hindus also who were put in jail. But the Assamese media did not report about Bengali Hindus being put in jail for child marriage, even though those Hindu cases were more than Muslim cases. But the Bengali Muslims who were put in jail, they were only highlighted. So this kind of, Machiavellian media politics, do you think it will work? And do you think Bengali Hindus will keep supporting the new form of relationship that the Hindutva has brought in Assam?
Actually, people's concerns get neutralized and they get immobilized or even demobilized by this kind of an agenda that every time Hemanta Biswa Sharma is able to bring out. Child marriage is one thing that is something very sensitive at various layers of the society. And he's hitting that layer, knowing fully well that this will sort of uproot certain people, this will unsettle certain families, and then how these families are going to cope up.
He's also applying the law retrospectively, which is very weird.
Yes, he's applying the law retrospectively to some extent, but then the legal process always doesn't support him, fortunately. And there is a leeway that always remains in the legal process. So if it is a legal process,
my question is specifically from the Bengali Hindu point of view,
from
that they are unable to even become victim. It's complete erasure of the Bengali Hindu from the discourse of Assam. If you look at it, the Assamese Muslims sometimes cry victim, the Mias are always cries victim, and they are victim in many ways. But the victimization of Bengali Hindu, which was part of the discourse of Assam, at least till 2014, that is not there. They are not in the news also, neither as victorious, neither as victim.
So there is a de-victimization of Bengali Hindus, and there is a re-victimization of Bengali Muslims. Now, Hemanta Biswa Sharma, between the two processes, have created a certain gulf so that people cannot even express themselves openly. And he brings out an agenda like child marriage, and if someone is caught with child marriage, he cannot really defend himself, he cannot show his face in the society. Now this has created a sense of frustration, a sense of distraught among the people, some of whom are victimized. Now, victims always are socially supported in the context of Assam. That is the best part of Assam. It's not that people who are in detention camp are not socially supported. They are also socially supported. Now, this social support system and there a kind of empathy, the kind of goodness that prevails in Assam society, that is something very unique to Assam, I would say. And that's part of Ohomia culture, culture of hospitality, culture of rudeness, culture of cruelty is superseded by a culture of hospitality, a culture of kindness. That is created because of the multicultural, multi-tribal, multi-ethnic kind of formation that every helmet, every rural area, every semi-urban area and every urban area of Assam has. And therefore, you can see at the level of the people, there is a different kind of a citizenry, there is a different kind of a bonhomie. And as long as that exists, it's not possible to sharply divide the society. And that's where the politics of polarization fails, even though Hemanta Biswa Sharma pursues it in a very calculated manner.
Okay. 3 questions. Okay, I will clump it together.
Sure, please.
Number 1 is, the fake encounter of Muslims and Mars, Bengali Muslims and Mars in Lower Assam. Second question is, the dissolvement of Gaon Buras through the newly Hindutva style Khap Panchayat system. I call it Khap Panchayat only because it's a kind of political fascism only, dismantling of the Gaon Bura. And the third is, we are discussing the minorities and minorities. How do you see the Bengali Dalits and the Mias reconcile and launch a secular onslaught against whatever politics is happening in Assam? These 3 questions I have clumped together.
Very nicely. Actually, look at the Thai Oham community. Thai Oham community has a very strong system of traditional heads, whom we call Gauburas. Now, this is part of the very existence of the community, that there will be a Gohai, who is a priest. There will be a kind of a Gogoi, or some other who will act as the village head. Now, this is from the approval and the consent by the community itself. And the political intervention there will not create much of the difference. Political intervention may say that, okay, you are not legitimately the Gaubura. Then who is the Gaubura? Legitimately, is it the elected Panchayat? The elected Panchayats do not exist in Assam anymore, in a sense. So, Panchayat elections are due in Assam, and when it is going to happen, I think there is a political calculation there. If these Gauburas are there, the opposition parties and other parties also get a space. So to shrink that space, apparently, there is no such political or a legal declaration that Gauburas cannot exist, because under Article 30 of the Indian Constitution, if I am not mistaken, it is possible to have village level councils. And Assam also has 371, Article 371 on it. Thereby, Assam's culture, Assam's traditional practices are to be protected by the government. So, therefore, the legal aspect and the political aspect do not converge here in the process of evolution of Gauburas. And also, traditionally, the communities act together in that manner.
Also, Gaubura is a witness to safeguard a person from getting
citizenized, obviously, because that Gaubura knows when that person came, precisely.
So, such a it's a quasi-legal figure. Attack on such a quasi-legal figure is kind of attack on the Assamese society.
I mean, I don't see it as an attack. I only see it as a question of legalization.
Okay.
Because in many cases, within 6th schedule, those states of Northeast which are under 371, the question of Gaubura arose at some time or the other.
Okay.
In the sense that the traditional structure of Gaubura challenges the traditional political elites also. MLA also feels a little insecure if there is a Gaubura as a parallel authority. So he wants to finish that parallel sense of protective network that Gauburas create for their own communities and completely turn it into the protective network of the government. But can that happen in Assam? Just as child marriage cannot be abolished fully in Assam, it requires social reformation. The task of social reform cannot be conducted by way of a political process and by way of government decrees. And that's where probably there is a failure, and there is also a limitation of the modernist, rationalist governmental process, or the politics of governmentality, or politics of the governed, as Partha Chatterjee talks about it. So the Gauburas are part of the politics of the governed. They are part of the larger political society in a Hegelian sense, in the sense of Partha Chatterjee, and that's part of modern institution building process bottom up. I don't think it can be easily abolished or erased by a stroke of the pen. So therefore, traditional Gauburas will remain, whether they are legalized or illegalized. There is no question of abolishing that institution.
And my other 2 questions about attack on Bengali Muslims of Mars, especially this DGP that has been sent from Assam to
CRPF now.
to Manipur.
Yes.
What's his name? I forgot. GP Singh, I guess.
No, GP Singh has become the chief of the CRPF at this moment.
So this politics where Bengali Hindus, Bengali Muslims are under pressure, especially Bengali scheduled caste Hindus, and Christians also in attack in Assam.
Yes.
So how do you see them create a secular onslaught? They coming together and creating a secular onslaught against this fascism.
Oh no, they are not coming together, but they are speaking the same thing.
Whenever but there is an instance, how can they come together?
Now, coming together will depend on a political sagacity of the opposition. The opposition is deeply divided. Akhil Gogoi and then Gaurav Gogoi and then the other Gogoi, who was the ex-ASU leader. They all have to act in tandem, and they have to pursue this agenda. On the one side, there is Rakibul Hussain. Now, is Rakibul Hussain able to bring together various communities by way of a mobilization of opposition politics? Now, Congress party is not able to make use of such a situation. That's the weakness of the opposition, that people who are under attack, they are speaking the same thing, seeking same kind of a liberty or protection, but they are not able to come together politically. And Mr. Hemanta Biswa Sharma is making full use of this division, though he has not engineered such a division. Now, as far as Christians are concerned, they are taking shelter under the larger rubric of the Northeast. But what is happening to Bengali Hindus and Bengali Muslims, they are looking also for a larger umbrella. Sometimes BJP itself is acting as a protective shield, because in a place like Shamaguri, for example, in the by-election, BJP has won, which is primarily a Bengali Muslim-dominated community. In the history, always there was a Muslim legislator. First time there is a legislator who is not a Muslim. So you can see BJP also turns into becoming a kind of a protecting umbrella for people who have suffered otherwise. So therefore, Assam's politics is very interesting. The shift, it's like shifting sands of Brahmaputra river. The sand shifts without any notice and without anyone actually desiring it. And then the parties reposition themselves depending on the situation. It's entirely situational and nothing more than that, Abid.
Okay. So now that brings us to the end of this discussion with Mr. Prasenjit Biswas. Here we have discussed, how minorities Assam navigate through the Assamese nationalism, composite Assamese culture, as well as the pragmatics of Assamese politics. So thanks for watching DYNT News. Please subscribe to our channel and please download our app. You can participate in discussions live. Thanks for watching.